Coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
That is not the only number that you're paying, that there are other expenses that you pay that are completely hidden, that are significant, and you need to take them into account when you're investing your money. I want to go find properties right here in town and buy those properties, and I want to fund that using my IRA. Now, I got to tell you something. I don't like hearing that in a lot of cases, because the first thing I think is, I heard a lot about that in 2007, right before markets crashed. And now that I'm starting to hear it again, that's not making me real comfortable about what are going to happen in markets. I think history is starting to repeat itself a little bit here.
Now, the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to the show today. We have 30 minutes of action-packed information specifically designed for you. Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, where we believe your best is yet to come.
This week in CFP Talk, we're talking about mutual funds and the fees that you pay when you invest in mutual funds. Now, as you know, millions of Americans put their money in mutual funds, and hey, you might be one of them. The question that you want to ask yourself whenever you invest your hard-earned dollars in mutual funds is you want to know, what are you paying them to manage your money? And not, what are all the fees? Not just the ones that you see. Are there other fees that you don't see? Well, that's what we want to talk about today. So in a recent study regarding mutual funds, the average fee, the average expense ratio of a mutual fund here in the United States is about 0.90%. So what does that mean? Let's say that you are looking at ABC Mutual Fund or XYZ Mutual Fund, and you open up the prospectus. The prospectus is that document that they give you before you invest, and you want to do your due diligence. So you open that prospectus up and you read it, and it says right there in the prospectus, oh look, your expense ratio, the amount that you pay the advisor every single year is 0.9%. Now, you're never going to see that anywhere other than the prospectus. You won't see it on a statement or anywhere else, but it's there in the prospectus. And so you think to yourself, well, that's not so bad. That's less than 1%. And as a certified financial planner, I would tell you, if you're paying less than 1% on your investments, that's a reasonable rate. I would give you an A grade on that. But here's the problem, and here's what this study taught us. And this study, by the way, came out in 2011, so we're talking like 5 years now. They taught us that that is not the only number that you're paying, that there are other expenses that you pay that are completely hidden, that are significant, and you need to take them into account when you're investing your money. So here's what the study told us. This was a study that was written about in Forbes, written about in Barron's, I think Investors Business Daily, all the big publications talked about this when it came out in 2011. So here's what they said. The first thing you have to watch out for are these things called transaction costs. So transaction costs. What are transaction costs? That is what a mutual fund pays to buy and sell the different positions. And there are a number of transaction costs. There are the cost, the actual cost that the mutual fund company pays to buy and to sell. There is a spread, which is the difference between what they're buying or what they're paying versus what the other side is buying or selling for. There are things like when a mutual fund, a big mutual fund sells shares, they might sell 1 million shares in any company at any one time. And when they do that, that affects the markets negatively, and so you end up getting less of a return. But if you add all these murky transaction costs up, on average, 1.44%. That's what you're paying each and every year on average. Some years more, some years less. We're talking about the average fund. And obviously, some funds are going to cost more, some are going to cost less. This is just average. The next level of cost you got to watch out for is something called cash drag. What the heck is that? Well, whenever you invest in a mutual fund, there's always a certain percentage of your money that's just sitting there in cash. But you're paying your fees on the whole thing, And so on average, that costs 0.83% when all the numbers are crunched. Now add all this up, 0.9, 144, 0.83. 3.19% per year is what you're typically paying in the average fund. And we're missing two things. Loads/advisory fees and in after-tax accounts, taxes. Folks, this mutual fund you think costs less than 1% could end up costing 4% a year when all of this is said and done. Know your costs. Now, if you have any questions about this, or anything that we talked about here, please feel free to give us a call. We are happy to help you out.
Remember when life was simpler? When things didn't move quite so fast, and the world didn't seem so complex? Remember that? We do. And as the world around us has continued to speed up, becoming more complicated, and still a bit uncertain, we have managed to keep things simple, providing sound, easy-to-understand financial advice and customized roadmaps for the road ahead, from tax reduction strategies, investment advice, and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, backed by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. We can be your single point of contact, a single call, a voice you recognize well, and a partner who can be by your side for the entire journey. We can't stop the world around us, but we can help ensure you're prepared for what's to come. To schedule a no-obligation meeting, simply contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right. All right, this week in our segment of Ask Banks, we actually have a question that came in from one of the viewers here. And it's from, I remember her name was Sherry. She was asking the following question. She was saying, hey, Banks, hey, Banks. Yeah, well, Banks pays attention to Sherry about as well as me, as you can see. Anyway, Sherry was asking the question. She said that she'd been watching the show. And you know, on this show, we talk about converting to Roth IRA because we love Roth IRAs. They're tax-free, right, Banks? Tax-free, we love that. Oh yeah, those are good things. And we talk about you want to convert or have a plan to convert IRAs to Roth IRAs if it makes sense for your planning. So Sherry wrote in. She said and you can, if you have a question, you can ask Banks. I think it's askbanks at retiringwell.com, I believe. Anyway, she asked a question. She said, hey, Banks, she's in a 401k now. And she said, I'm in a 401k. And she was watching the show about converting to Roth IRAs. She's still working, can she convert her 401k to a Roth IRA even though she's still working? And that's a really good question. Banks, what do you think about that? You want to answer Sherry for us? Banks looks like she's doing about the same thing she normally does, which is just lays around and looks good. Okay, good. Banks. So anyway, when it comes to, oh my gosh, look at this. What a ham. When it comes to your 401k, Sherry, here is something kind of interesting. If your 401k has a Roth option, so some 401ks, in fact, a lot of 401ks have the ability to have a Roth option inside of your account. If your 401k, if your company provides one that has that Roth option, you can, right, Banks? I know you're excited about this. You can convert within your 401k the dollars that are any portion or the whole amount, dollars that are in the traditional account, you can convert to the Roth side. Now, you will pay tax, of course, in the amount that you convert. So if you have, $100,000 that you convert, you're going to pay tax on $100,000 of income. So remember that. Now, one thing that is different with Roth conversions inside of a 401k is that a Roth conversion inside of a 401k, you cannot change your mind. So with a regular IRA, if you go IRA to Roth IRA, you have a period of time where you can change your mind and go back, but not inside of the 401k structure. You make that change in the 401k, it is done. You cannot change your mind after that. So it's irrevocable is the term. Now the other thing you can think about, Sherry, is you said you're still working. If this is the 401k that you're at a job you're at, your options may be limited. What you might need to do, if you're over the age of 59 and a half, you might be able to do an in-service rollover, and that just means you can take money, even though you're still working, from your 401k and move it over to your IRA. And wow, that's cool. Now, poor Banks, I've lost her here. But anyway, you can go from 401k to IRA, and when that happens, you can then do the typical Roth conversion process. But what if you're still working, you're under the age of 59 and a half? See, I don't know your circumstances, but if you are too young, then you're kind of stuck. You kind of have to wait until you either A, get a new job and move away from that company, or B, hit the age of 59 and a half. Now, you didn't say this, but if that 401k is, say, from an old job or something where you don't work there anymore, well, then it's easy. Then you just go from 401k to IRA, and off you go. You can do all kinds of cool stuff there. Unfortunately, I didn't have a quick answer, and Banks didn't have a quick answer for you. But what it comes down to is simply this. If you can do something, that's great. I always encourage you, talk to a professional before you take any action. Talk to someone. Look, call our office, Sherry. Well, we're happy to sit down with you and help you analyze what you're doing there to make sure you're making smart choices. And, folks, for all of you watching the show, if you have questions about Roth conversions and 401ks and IRAs, I want you to call us. Give us a call. We are here to answer your questions. One of the biggest mistakes we see people making all the time when they come to our office is they don't have a clearly defined retirement plan. And the reason's pretty simple. It's pretty rare that someone like yourself has the opportunity to sit down with an independent financial advisor who truly specializes in retirement planning. Someone that makes sure that you can get through retirement safely and securely. Well, if you don't have a clearly defined retirement plan and you want one, well, all you have to do is give us a call. We have a special offer for the first 5 people that call. As long as you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement, we will provide for you, free of charge, no obligation, a complete retirement review. In this review, we're going to help you take a look at your investments and the risk you're taking, the fees you pay in your portfolio, maybe even some tax planning will help you have an integrated, clearly defined retirement plan. Free, no obligation, be one of the first 5 callers. Make sure you call now. We'll see you when you stop in. You know, just the other day, I had someone come into the office, just like you. They're watching the show. They called us, they came in the office, and they had some questions about their IRA. And what they wanted to do was the following. They were saying, hey, I want to buy real estate in my IRA. Now, I don't want to buy like a real estate investment trust or something that's regularly traded. I want to go find properties right here in town and buy those properties, and I want to fund that using my IRA. Now, I got to tell you something. I don't like hearing that in a lot of cases because the first thing I think is, you know, I heard a lot about that in 2007 right before markets crashed. And now that I'm starting to hear it again, that's not making me real comfortable about what are going to happen in markets. I think history is starting to repeat itself a little bit here. But what did I tell him? Well, what I did is I looked at him and I said, Frank, you can do that. It is certainly legal to do that. But, you know, like my dad said, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should do something. So I want to share with you 3 reasons. So I told him, I said, Frank, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I wouldn't recommend that. I want to give you the same 3 reasons. Okay, this is really important. So if you're thinking about this, please pay attention. Reason number 1. The first reason that you don't want to buy real estate in your IRA is really simple. You lose all the tax benefits. I mean, if you think about it, owning real estate as an investment, especially when you own the real estate directly, you get all these wonderful tax benefits, depreciation, and you get to write off expenses and all that cool stuff. But in an IRA, everything's taxed at ordinary income rates. Yeah, you get tax deferral, but when the money comes out and all the gains, let's say you're successful, let's say it works, and you make a bunch of money, you get to pay ordinary income on all those gains. If you were investing in it outside of your IRA, on the other hand, not only would you pay capital gains, long-term capital gains taxes at the worst, which is a lot better rate, you can also do things like 1031 exchanges, avoid taxes altogether. In an IRA, you can't do that. All right, reason number 2. The second reason you don't want to do this, Frank, and to you, self-dealing rules with IRAs can get you into a ton of trouble really fast. So there's a great example in case law where there was a fella, he did this. He used his IRA to buy rental real estate. And one of his places needed, now listen to this, is ridiculous, needed new paint. He had to freshen up the paint for a new renter. And so he just went to the store, he bought some paint and painted the walls so his new renter could move in. Not a big deal, right? Oh, except for the IRS, when they audited him, said, no, that's self-dealing. You can't do that. You cannot, if you're going to do anything with an IRA, you can't do it yourself. You got to go hire someone and do fair market value and all that kind of jazz. Very, very complicated and very, very easy to violate. And you know what happens when you self-deal in an IRA? It's all cashed out. It's considered as though you cashed it all out, all in 1 year. You pay taxes on the entire amount in 1 year. This poor guy had to pay tax on over $1 million of an IRA distribution all in 1 year. Horrible. And then finally, number 3, required minimum distributions. Once you hit the age of 70 and a half, you're forced to pull a certain amount of money out of that IRA each year. There have been situations where people they take their IRA, they buy real estate, there's not enough cash in there to distribute for required minimum distributions. If you don't have enough cash to distribute for required minimum distributions, that is a 50% penalty on that distribution on top of the income tax that you pay. Typically, 75–80% of the money goes to the IRS. Nasty. You want to avoid that. So there you go. 3 reasons you don't want to use your IRA to invest in real estate. 1, you lose all the tax benefits. 2, self-dealing challenges, and 3 required minimum distribution problems. Folks, use your IRAs for different things. Use after-tax money for real estate. You'll be much happier in the long run. If you have questions about this or anything else we talk about in the show, by all means, pick up the phone, give us a call. We would love to answer your questions. One of the biggest mistakes we see people making all the time when they come to our office is they don't have a clearly defined retirement plan. And the reason's pretty simple. It's pretty rare that someone like yourself has the opportunity to sit down with an independent financial advisor who truly specializes in retirement planning. Someone that makes sure that you can get through retirement safely and securely. Well, if you don't have a clearly defined retirement plan and you want one, well, all you have to do is give us a call. We have a special offer for the first 5 people that call. As long as you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement, we will provide for you, free of charge, no obligation, a complete retirement review. In this review, we're going to help you take a look at your investments and the risk you're taking, the fees you pay in your portfolio, maybe even some tax planning will help you have an integrated, clearly defined retirement plan. Free, no obligation, be one of the first 5 callers. Make sure you call now. We'll see you when you stop in.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right.
Welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Talk with Mike. My name is James Curry. I'm one of the financial advisors here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. We've got some great questions from viewers this week for you, Mike. Are you ready for this week's questions?
I'm ready. Fire away.
All right. First, we have a question from Sandra in Austin. She writes, I have a 401k at a former employer. Is it okay to just leave it there?
Oh, well, this is one of those things we have all the time, right? Someone is working at one employer, then they go on to another employer, sometimes a third and a fourth. And a lot of times that happens. It's natural that people just, when you go to a new employer, you're not thinking, okay, what do I do with my 401k, right? You're thinking, well, wait a minute, I'm just trying to get to this new job. So is it a good idea to leave the money at your old employer? As we talk about this, I think there's a couple reasons why you probably don't want to do that. Number one is just lack of control, right? You only have certain investment options there. You don't have, tons and tons of choices. And so you don't really have, maybe you have access to it online, but you're not connected with the administrative staff as much anymore. It's just kind of a pain. What I really encourage Sandra to do, and Sandra, if you're watching this, I really want you just to call the office and let's sit down and talk about this. What I would really like to see her do is just open up an IRA. It's just her own personal IRA. And that way, every time she's at a job, if she moves on to another employer, she can use that IRA as kind of where all the old 401ks can kind of come in one after another and accumulate all in one place. That means if she does that, as you know, she has more control over her money. She has the availability to invest in anything, right? She can do whatever she wants. It's all in one place, all online, really easy to manage. And it just makes the organization of her finances a lot better. So folks, if that's happening to you, if you're in the same position as Sandra, yeah, just open up your own IRA and start, kind of consolidate those old 401ks into one place.
Yeah, it'll make it easier to just have one account instead of so many different ones like we see a lot of people have.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. It makes my mind think back to when you put together these reports for people and they've got all these accounts and you're just, what a mess, right?
Next question we have from Jerry in Lago Vista. Jerry writes, my IRA is finally back above its high point. I'm worried that markets will go down soon. How can I figure out how much exposure I have to losses if that happens?
Wow, that's another good one today. So James, is it fair to say that we're getting a lot of people coming in with the same kind of thinking?
Oh yeah, absolutely, with markets near all-time highs.
Right, and they're seeing their accounts, they're like, oh man, I finally got back to I finally have more money in here than I've ever had, right? And then, but what if the markets drop? How much could I lose again? It's frustrating when you work so hard and wait so long to see your accounts get back up to their high level, and then bang, there goes a market crash and you lose everything again. This is one of those areas and a lot of people ask this question. It's another reason I really, really want people to come visit with us because, as you know, you guys are always running Morningstar reports where you're plugging a portfolio into Morningstar, a third-party vendor. And what you're doing is you're helping the folks that come visit identify, look, if the markets go south, here's how much you can lose. Do you, and tell me, James, is it fair to say that a lot of times people could maybe lose a lot more than they think?
Absolutely. A lot of times people are taking a lot more risk than they think they are, and that downside can come a lot quicker than they can when markets go down.
Isn't that true? Where markets, they kind of go up slow, but man, when they drop, they just crash, don't they? So one of the things that for anyone who's, if you're at home, you're thinking, man, I've got the same kind of question. Look, that's a reason to give us a shout because we want you to come in. James, the rest of the team, they can run that analysis for you and help you really identify, what your exposure is to losses. And you need a program like Morningstar, something along those lines, to really, truly, independently, objectively identify for you what the risk is that you're taking, right?
Well, that was certainly some great information this week, Mike. And for anyone else watching that might have any questions, please feel free to call the office or visit the website and we'll answer your question next.
Thanks everyone for watching the show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office or visit our website. And remember, you only retire once. So let's get it right the first time. We'll see you next week.